Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, from whatever parts of the world that you're joining us. Welcome to Sister Talk, episode sponsored by the Sisters of Mercy of the Americas. We're delighted that you've chosen to join us. My name is Mary Kay Dobrovolny. I'm a Sister of Mercy. I'm originally from Nebraska, but in the past year, I've recently chosen to relocate to the U.S.-Mexico border in Southern California. We have opened a new intentional community and ministry here at the U.S.-Mexico border in Southern California that is an intentional community that combines folks from a variety of backgrounds, variety of genders, ages, walks of life. And here with me this afternoon or today is one of my housemates, one of my community members, Mary Waskowiak, who is the founder and establisher of this new venture. So Mary, can I invite you to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Mary Kay. Hello, everybody. I'm Mary Waskowiak. I'm very happy to be here. I have no idea who's out there, but to those Sisters of Mercy associates, friends, people curious either about religious life or ministry with migrant peoples, I just say welcome. I myself I was born and grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, entered the Sisters of Mercy in the Bay Area, Burlingame to be exact. I dare say I entered the convent 55 years ago. So if you get bored, you do the math and figure that out. I'm here because 2 or 3 years ago, when I turned 70 in 2018, I did my prayer. I call it my quiet time each morning, living in San Francisco in a lovely little corner of my bedroom. At the end of my prayer, I heard myself kind of say to God, no out loud words, but inside myself, I heard myself say, tell me what your call is to me for this decade of my life. I was kind of shocked with the word decade, but that's what I said. And, I paused, nothing. And life went on. That was April of 2018. And it was January 3rd or 4th of 2019. Same thing. I finished my quiet time. And it was as if I heard God say, I want you to go to the California-Mexico border. It was very specific. And I was kind of stunned. But I said, okay, I'm just going to talk about this, and either people will say it's ridiculous or something will happen. So January of 2019, this is December of 2021, here we are. And I did just start talking about it and ended up meeting with a group of faithful people from the St. Ignatius Church at the University of San Francisco. Some of them, and then a group of people who belong to a Eucharistic community, is how they describe themselves, in Santa Rosa, maybe an hour plus from San Francisco. And they were going to El Paso to volunteer. And so I joined them. And I have to say that was very impactful. 2 things impacted me. One was the fact that one of the women in the volunteer group had her own B&B, so she could get special deals. So 9 of us stayed at a B&B in El Paso, and that sense of community, I was the only vowed religious. That sense of community was really simple and good and impactful. However, we were at Romero House, a smaller place, because the border had been closed, so we welcomed about 200 people a night. One thing happened to me one day. I was walking down the kind of a passageway, and those of you who know me won't be surprised. I always speak to people and practicing my Spanish. So I spoke to one woman and who I thought was her daughter with her, a skinny little girl. And she said, my name is Lucy. This is my daughter. And I said something about, why are you here? And they were from the state of Michoacan in Mexico. And she said, I'm here because my daughter, even when she introduced her to me, she kind of did this, and she just said she was born with brain damage and she cannot talk. And so she told me that, and I, in front of Lucy, the mom, I touched the daughter, and it was like the big chill, big chill. But what happened is that girl was out and about, and the gangs came through, and they wanted sex with her, and she could not respond. And so what they did is they totally beat up her face. And Lucy said she came home totally swollen and purple. And Lucy said, that night I packed our goods and we started walking. That impacted me. So I didn't forget it. I came home. I had, thanks to the USF St. Ignatius connection, I was able to speak at the church and started to talk about it with Sisters of Mercy in Burlingame, who said, Mary, put it out and see what happens. So somehow it got published in Mercy papers that I was beginning to think about this. And we ended up with, Mary Kay, I want you to talk about the people, but we ended up with a small community. And I'll come back and talk more about our work. But maybe the one thing the line, I love being a sister of mercy. I do love being a sister of mercy. But what I also love was Catherine McCauley's care for what was happening around her. And that's what she responded to. And I think we'll tell you more about that, but I want you, Mary Kay, to talk about the who of our community.
Great. Thanks, Mary. So we brought a few images with us just to help situate everyone for where we are, our neighborhood and our house. So we're located in Barrio Logan here in San Diego, and Barrio Logan is really kind of considered the epicenter of Mexican American culture and art in San Diego. And our house is just 2 blocks away from Chicano Park. So Chicano Park is the largest collection of Chicano art murals in the world. There's 80,000 art murals in this park, and it's just a couple blocks away. It highlights how much I have yet to learn about Chicano history and culture and language. Our house itself is part of the parish grounds for Our Lady of Guadalupe, the historic Mexican national parish for Southern California. It has traditionally been Spanish speaking. It has gone bilingual in the latest decades, but that's by adding one liturgy in English. That of the 17 liturgies throughout the week, 16 of them are in Spanish. So it's heavily a Spanish-speaking parish and neighborhood that we're living in here in San Diego. In terms of our vision for the intentional community aspect of Casa de Misericordia, I'd love to share our identity statement. So at this point, we can stop the pictures for a little bit. But the identity statement for me captures well some of our desire for who we are, who we want to be. So if you'll excuse my reading it, but Casa de Misericordia exists to respond to the needs of our time, a time marked by polarization and division, violence and fear, global crises, and massive migration. At the heart of Casa de Misericordia is an intentional community composed of persons of diverse genders, backgrounds, ages, and faith traditions. We form and live out common agreements around spirituality, community, and service. We hold as a core value presence to God, one another, and the wider community. Purposely located near the US-Mexico border in Southern California, we are a listening presence among migrant persons and are responsive to need through direct service and systemic action. We seek to form relationships characterized by mutuality and inclusivity. By collaborating with others in works of mercy, we learn to be more merciful. Casa de Misericordia is a community of action and contemplation, believes all humans share a common home. All are welcome. For me, that identity statement kind of captures much of what we hope for this intentional community. Right now, we're 5 people. We're open for someone to discern about being part of this community here in San Diego. But right now, we're 5 people, diverse in terms of ages, from like 42 to, I think Mary revealed her age, in the early 70s, male and female, open to non-binary, gender non-conforming. So I'm Catholic and Protestant, and open to being interspiritual as well as interreligious. So we bring a diversity of who we are and who we want to be, but we all share common commitments about wanting to share life together and share our faith together, our spiritual journey, and have a common commitment to service and presence among migrant folks in whatever ways that we can live that out. We're all responsible to have our own jobs and whatever income that we need to pay the rent and meet the basics of daily needs and stuff. So the presence with migrant folks is as it fits with the rest of the commitments that we have that form our life. But it's a rich and vibrant life that allows us to deepen in our God relationships and common commitments in ministry and service to the people of God. So with that, maybe I'll turn it back to Mary to speak more about our ministry aspects out of this house. And hopefully Mary's still, okay, so it appears that there's problems getting Mary reconnected into the video. So I'll continue and hope that she'll be able to reconnect and join us here in a bit. One of the other, Mary will talk about some of the ministry to migrants that are through the Community Resource Center, some urban gardens that we have, and other presence to migrant folks throughout. But one of the other aspects in terms of kind of community is that we have a bit of an extended community as well that joins us in some meaningful and unique ways. And delightfully, many of them are young adults. I have a particular love and passion for ministry with and among young adults. And it's been great that many are attracted to this particular house and community. And so we've had folks from various universities here to come and visit and get a feel for us. But then on a weekly basis, we're able to have a prayer, Lectio Divina style prayer that we host on Tuesday nights. And so that's open to any of the young adults in the area that want to come and share faith and life and prayer with us. We have a lovely chapel in this house that is set up as kind of a meditation style chapel with meditation Christians on the floor and able to just kind of gather around and break open what's moving in our lives and our ministries and how do we hear the call of God in our lives. So that Lectio Divina style prayer of the Word with Mercy on Tuesday nights has been quite meaningful as well. While we're still waiting for Mary to join, monologue, you get to just hear me talk. Isn't this fascinating? So I guess I could share a little bit about why I chose to be here, what's moving in my life. That in many ways, I would say that my call to be here at the border is one of a journey of spiritual transformation. That I'm white, I'm English only speaking. I struggle to learn Spanish. And I am really trying to take in the border spirituality and deepen in what does it mean to be a woman of white in this place, in this location. How can I show up better in the world? For years, I had prayed with kind of all the borders, walls, and divisions that keep us divided one from another, and have been deeply impacted, as I'm sure most all of you have been, with the stories and plights of migrants throughout the world, and those that have died in our deserts or drowned in our seas, trying to find a better life for themselves, their children, and what's my place in this? How can I respond in a meaningful way? And I don't know that I have any great answers of any of that, of how to respond. And yet somehow the showing up and being present and allowing myself to encounter on a daily basis those who are struggling to find that better life, and to listen to their stories and be present to the pain, has been significant and meaningful and transformative in my own life and spirituality, as I try to deepen in how to live this charism of mercy that I particularly delight in and love and have committed my life to. So it's been a really meaningful place for me to learn and move and grow and try to deepen in what does this mean to be a sister of mercy, and to live this mercy charism that so many of us resonate with and identify with and try to live out. In the midst of my time here at the border, I witness on a daily basis kind of what folks are willing to sacrifice and give in order to try to have a better life and migrate to this country. But in July, I also had the opportunity to go to Honduras and spend a couple weeks in Honduras to get a better sense of some of the root causes impacting folks' choices for migration. And there I really deepened into the right to stay in place. Like here, the narrative is often the right to migrate. And in Honduras, I was able to really deepen in the right to stay in one's home country, in the country that they love, and all that people risk in order to do that. And the people and stories that I encountered in Honduras have deeply impacted me as well. And I take their lives and their struggles and their celebrations as they elected their first female president this past weekend to heart and to my prayer and spirituality as well. I see we have our first question. One of the questions are starting to come in through the chat, and I appreciate that and welcome that. So please, I encourage you all, particularly as I'm doing a monologue here and unanticipated, to send your questions, and that will help us all out. But we have a question from Eileen. Eileen, great to see and hear from you again in New Hampshire. And she asks if anyone in the community speaks Spanish. So we're all of us, all five of us, are working at Spanish and have greater and lesser degrees of proficiency. I'm the one with the least. I'm the weak link of the crew right now. But so we all have varying degrees of proficiency with the language. And one of our housemates just got back this past weekend from some time in Guatemala, where she was taking some time away specifically to work on Spanish. Her language skills were good to begin with, and went for an immersion experience for the last 3 weeks to live with a family and work on Spanish and be tutored 6 hours a day. We've got a reminder that young adults are thank you, Michelle, as I talked about the in-person, the Word with Mercy, Lectio Divina, that we host here at Casa de Misericordia on Tuesday nights. Vocation Ministers for the Sisters of Mercy, of which I am one, hosts a monthly version of the Word with Mercy online on Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time, and hopefully you can do the math for your time zone on the first Thursday of the month. So that's coming up this Thursday, and we would love to have you join any of the young adults that are listening. We delight in having you join us for the Word with Mercy that happens online if you can't get here locally. All right, what other questions do you have? And where's my beloved housemate? That's supposed to be my partner in crime in this. Okay, so I'm sure she is calling, trying to get back in. So, impactful. What's been impactful for me? How about if I go with that question? One of the things, so you already heard some of my discernment to be here, some of how I'm engaging this as spiritual transformation. But in terms of some of the greatest impacts on me, for me, something that was very significant, for a couple months, we were a mile away, so within walking distance of the Civic Center. We are a mile away, within walking distance of the Civic Center, and for a couple months previously, that Civic Center was a temporary shelter for up to 1,400 unaccompanied migrant youth, mainly girls, but sometimes there were boys if they were younger boys that were traveling with an older siblings. Mary and I and other housemates of ours were able to get temporary clearances, and then Mary and I permanent, ongoing clearances to be able to be present with the youth as faith leaders, as religious leaders, and join them for religious services and prayer, and to just be present among them and give them blessings and such. And that was really impactful for me. It looks like my partner here might be rejoining. Welcome back, Mary.
Thank you.
I've just been
Can I pick it up?
I've been chatting along, and
I've watched you.
Oh, okay. So I'm just in the midst of talking a little bit about the convention center being a temporary shelter for unaccompanied migrant youth. And for me, it was really, again, my Spanish is limited. So, but we were inevitably signing the cross on various children's foreheads and saying simple prayers of blessing over each child. And I would always start with an apology for how poor my Spanish is, and then get a blessing out with my very poor Spanish, and how meaningful that simple touch and blessing was for so many. And there was one little guy about 5 years old who was there with his older sibling, his older sister, that just came up and hugged my leg and sobbed and sobbed. And how can you not have your heart break in those moments and just take that in and want to figure out a way, some small, simple way of how to make this world a better place, and where a child such as that doesn't have to leave home and mom and grandmother. I found myself wondering when was the last time that child received a blessing from his mom or grandmother. So those moments just kind of break my heart and call me deeper into ministry and into this commitment to the Mercy Care Zone. But Mary, how about if I turn it back to you, and you can talk about some of the ministry and what's impactful for you?
Yeah. Maybe just to make the link to what you just said, Mary Kay, if somebody asked me to date what has been most impactful, it was that time at the convention center. about 1,400 girls, and then they brought some of their brothers, their little brothers. But to have those kids come, and I forget, oh, I got a call from a Lutheran minister who was in charge of the religious types wanting to go into the center. And he called and he said to me, Mary, do you know what a rosary is? I said, yes. He said, can you get me some? I said, how many? He said, 1,000. And I just said, yeah, sure I can, thinking, where am I going to get them? And I went to the diocese. We have three wonderful bishops in this diocese. It's a friendly place. I went, they were finishing lunch, and I went to the sister in charge of the religious. She's a friend of ours. And as I asked her, I didn't realize the other people at the table were the mission folks. And they got up and started pulling out rosaries. I walked out with 1,100 rosaries. And I had said to Bill, the Lutheran minister, I said, if I get these rosaries, I have one manipulation of you. I said, it's that another Sister of Mercy and I get to pass them out. He said, of course. Mary Kay and I went through there. And you would think it was bargain day at some ritzy store or maybe the Mercado, who knows. The girls leaped on those rosaries. They picked their favorite color. Some wanted the cross that had INRI, some didn't. They had to see if it fit over their heads. Unbelievable. And we just kept walking through, and kids, we had a cart. We went to one corner, and the same thing was happening, and I was just standing there, and a girl came and stood next to me. And I thought she was waiting for the other girls. And she was very quiet, and I looked at her, not a sound out of her mouth, but tears were streaming down her face. And I felt so helpless. And yes, I do speak some Spanish. And so I said to her, where are you from? El Salvador. I forget, I may have asked a couple of more questions. And then out of helplessness, I said to her, may I put a cross on your forehead? And she nodded. So I did. But you know how teenagers are. Whenever there's something weird, something fun, the kids gather to see what's going on. Well, I looked, and all these girls are gathered around the two of us. And then they formed a line, and all their foreheads came to me. And I think that started the tradition of doing these blessings. But to see those kids and to know that at least once a week they got to call home was all organized. But I still carry that. Mary Kay and I each got a lanyard, and I keep mine on a pin as I leave my bedroom door every morning, because for me, I wish I could wear that lanyard all the time in memory of those girls. I suppose I could. The other thing that impacts me, and maybe let me say a little bit about our ministries, because of course we'd love to tempt you. If you're in Southern California, you make it known. To me, if you're in California, you make it known. But we came together as a community ready, just ready to work at the border, to work across the border, and COVID, everything was shut down. And actually, Bob or Brian, this might be a good time to show you a picture of the border wall. This is a picture of the border wall where you see all the people closer to the wall. That's Tijuana. And if you could see behind them, like more to your left, it's basically kind of a beach area. There are tables out there, people are eating. But when you go up to the wall, if you're on the other side where you see fewer people, Mary Kay teases me, you're not allowed to go up to the wall, but both Mary Kay and I and others of our community have. But I will go up to the wall, and the people have their hand through it, and I might touch them or talk to them a little bit until Border Patrol comes. And one time, the people on the other side were watching, and this one man said, all in Spanish, he's coming. And then he said to me, don't worry, he's Mexican. Still, it was a Border Patrol man, so he kind of made his way down to the ocean, made a U-turn, and then came and said to me, you must leave. And in Spanish, I said, okay. And I said, thank you for going so slowly because it gave me a chance to talk to the people. But what we do, once we knew the border was closed, the other thing we do, and Mary Kay, you were the one that inspired us. On Sunday afternoons, whoever wants to, we'll drive down to the border and you park the car and walk maybe a mile, mile and a half. But we walk right to the border wall where it meets the ocean. And we go down there and we're just quiet. We might walk around. And then people like me, that's not me, that could be Angeli, one of our people, but we'll go up to the wall and talk to the people, maybe touch them. And I know it's COVID, and I don't think I'm wearing gloves, but certainly wash my hands. But one time, Mary Kay and I were there by ourselves, and I had done it. Border Patrol came up, asked me to move. And I went, and Mary Kay and I were just talking quietly, sitting on the beach. And almost out of nowhere, a young man, we figured between 16 and 20, walked past us with great determination. And sure enough, Border Patrol cars following him, another's coming from another direction to meet him, another one's coming from the side to get him. They all converged on him, they took him. Mary Kay and I followed, and we saw them take his backpack, handcuff him, put him in the car. I later told that story feeling so bad for him, and one of the migrant people said to me, Sister Mary, some people do that on purpose. So they get recorded as trying to get across the border and they can express their need. And sometimes that helps. So that border prayer time, even when company comes, if we don't say it to them, they say, we heard you pray at the border, can we go? And it's very important. The other thing we do here, almost out of helplessness because the border was closed, the pastor of the parish gathered 3 women who grew up in this parish. One is in her 60s, one's in her 70s, one is in her 80s, takes great pride that her aunt was the first girl from the parish to become a Sister of Mercy. And she was beloved Sister Mary Annunciata. Anyway, those women really talked to us, and we got very energized. And the upstart was one of those women, Adela, and I opened a community resource center. One of the people on a major Zoom call the night before Thanksgiving emailed us, even that night before Thanksgiving a year ago, and said, what you're doing is a great need. You have a county social worker. So the house you see right now is a little cottage owned by the parish. Every Thursday, Friday, it's open from 8 a.m. till 2 p.m. The county social worker is there. Other services are provided depending on what people need. If you came, well, it used to be only Friday, but we're noticing we do it now Thursday, Friday. If you walked out to the sidewalk from that little house, you would think it was a low-end Target market. We've got, places you can hang clothes. And we bring out the dress cards and we hang the clothes, we meaning ourselves and other volunteers. We always keep 2 people out there for security because it's a safe area. It's not the safest. But people can take anything they want. There's food, lots of clothing, shoes, and we always ask the 2 people who are out there to help the people, to assure them everything's free, but to get a sense, do they need extra help? And if they do, to send them in. And social worker will help them, or we will make other contacts. Something I'm noticing as a need, and the social worker one day at the end of her time called us together and said, there are 2 needs that I cannot respond to. One of them is immigration papers, and the other is mental, emotional wellness because of the trauma. And not just the trauma of migration, but the trauma of COVID. For a while, our zip code here in San Diego had the most cases, the most COVID-related deaths, and the most COVID-related job losses. So all of that we've tried to respond to. What I notice, and again, I can be understood in Spanish. I love the language. I love being corrected. But what I notice, especially the men, will come up in that little house and stand next to me, not in front of me. And they'll say hello, and they'll say, Hermana, I need help with my papers. Can you help me? And we do help them. However, beginning January, we are making that a number one priority. We're cooperating with an Ignatian spirituality justice group in the parish, and we are working with volunteer immigration attorneys. We have to be careful because we do not want to become the parking lot for Border Patrol, but we will do it in a way that I think is appropriate and safe. And then we will be working on emotional mental wellness for our people. Something else, if you were here and if we had all day long, we'd show you beautiful slides. Angeli Raya is a member of our community. She is a master gardener, master farmer, a part of the parish that the parish owns property. The parish is very poor. And she was able to take one portion, one piece of land, and one morning last April or May, we shoveled compost, manure. I won't say the four-letter word on screen, but I said to the people, I, for 4 hours, did nothing but shovel it. And one of my partners was about a 4-year-old girl with her little shovel. What a family we all made. That garden has produced vegetables. They even planted sunflowers just to show off the place, and it's gorgeous. And the food is for the families. Angeli not only lets the families grow the food, it's a community, it's a common garden, so it's not each divided to certain families. But in the gardening, she is teaching them how to plant, how to nurture. And one of the ladies even said to her, Spanish, Angeli, we have a program that you lead. Angeli and I and another woman lead it called Healing Heart Wounds. And she said, this garden is the healing garden. And it's more than just growing food. It's building community, strengthening families. It's bringing healing and peace. Something else that we do in the parish, really urged on by an 81-year-old man who said, yeah, they can go any place for ESL, but if they come here, we're building community. So Tom is the master teacher. 4 of us are assistant teachers, and we are working with men and women who want to learn English, and that's going well. The Healing Heart Wounds program, Angeli and I and another woman led it last October, November, December. And what was shocking for me is we did it in our chapel. Mary Kay described the chapel. People came in, and maybe we had anywhere from 5 to 12 people. It ended up being on the shorter end because it really was sharing of wounds. And we all know this. When it comes to telling more intimate stories, we move to our mother tongue. So all the sessions were in Spanish, and thank goodness Berta is bilingual and helped us and helped them, navigate languages. Those are programs that we run. Um, like I said, January we will begin very focused immigration work. The border is beginning to open. It's unpredictable. I have because I can be more full time, I have a wonderful relationship with a Mexican sister on this side of the border whose congregation runs what is called Casa de los Pobres, House of the Poor, right there in Tijuana. I have visited there. They also so just beautiful and impactful to me. About a 45-minute ride from the casa to a place called Rosarito. And many people have their holiday homes in Rosarito. This congregation has a convent, And then they took me to a plot of land that has what they call Hospital San Ignacio, mainly because a Jesuit priest really helped them. But this is a 35-bed hospital for the mentally ill. No charge. The poorest of the poor go there. They live there. Walking out onto the property, you can see the ocean. It is so peaceful. They have a cemented area, for sports, but to be able, just the place reeked of peace to me. People who come who are wealthier, the sisters will say to them, "We do not charge, but you have money, and we ask you to make a donation." So I'm very happy that we have connections there. Most recently, I was there and I asked if I could begin to bring volunteers down because Mercy High School in Burlingame hopes to bring students down during Holy Week. And they said, yes, we will welcome them. Right now, Casa de los Pobres, like the hospital, uh, is closed to overnight guests because of COVID. But every morning, Casa de los Pobres serves 700 to 800 breakfast packs. And then about twice a week, they serve 600 dinner packs. And the people are lined up. They're just waiting for the next meal. So we plan to go there. We will more than likely never spend the night because right there at the border area, the drugs, the gangs, the kidnapping and taking, especially of girls, but boys too, into trafficking is awful. Other connections here on this side, there is a house for women coming out of trafficking, walking distance from where we are. And another sister of another order heads up a house for women coming out of trafficking about 15 minutes away. So the work, the ministry is right before us. One of the things I love, and I tease this sister, she's the founder of what is called Casa Cornelia Legal Resource Center here in Barrio Logan, the neighborhood. And it's for the real hardcore cases, immigration cases. And I was talking to her months ago in terms of, Anne, is there really a need for this? And yes, everybody said there's a need for what we're doing as community and in service. And she said to me in kind of a stern attorney's voice, "Mary, you take your community, get up from the dinner table, and go stand on your front porch. The migrant peoples are hiding right in front of you." And we could tell a few stories of the migrant people not only hiding, but coming to our house because people in the parish have said, "Go there, they will help you." And we don't have time for that, but I wanted to share that. So I've talked entirely too much. I hope I'm attracting you, motivating you to really bring this to prayer, whether it is to come in service, whether it is, mercy responds to need that's known. I resonate with this. What does this mean for me in my life? So Mary Kay, back to you.
Yeah, so I'm conscious of both time that we've been at this for a little over 40 minutes, and I want to be respectful of everyone's time. And there have been a few questions and comments in chat. A couple of them are interrelated for me. One, I see Bridget from Aotearoa in New Zealand sends her greetings to us. And an earlier question about how does our current ministry compare with our other ministry experiences. Both Mary and I have deep roots with the original Foundation House in Baggot Street in Dublin. I spent 7.5 years of my ministry at the original Foundation House and in Dublin, Ireland. And there we tried to keep track of a little bit of what's going on throughout the Mercy world in the 44 countries where we have Sisters of Mercy living and ministering. So for me, it was a wonderful place to have a window into the global Mercy realities. And I learned a lot about our global realities and deepened in the Mercy charism and spirituality and what that all means and how can we live that out. And so in many ways, it was a very influential and formative time to like help form and shape my ministry perspective, and how do I bring that global perspective here to this location at a nation state boundary and border. Another question that I tried to get a little bit at myself, but Mary, you haven't had the opportunity to speak to, is how your spirituality has been shaped by the border. So maybe if you want to share a few reflections on that, and then we might close with some prayer.
And maybe before I share on that, I love that question from Michelle Schreck. Katie Midline, I see your question. Are we starting to get recognition among the people? The answer is yes. More people are coming. More people who need the services are coming. The other thing is, I won't go into detail, but a man who owns, I'd say it's a medium moving toward upscale Italian foodery, he calls it, here in San Diego. Both good self-service. He wants to be better known. And he contacted a man who's the head of the Alumni Association for the school, the parish school. And he is energy personified. He's mercy. He's mercy. Anyway, Danny and Tom got together the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, thanks to Tom Tarantino and the Foodery. We were able to serve 500 meals, prepared meals to almost 100 families. And the families who benefited are the people who have come to the social worker, who have taken our programs, our classes. And we had our volunteer staff call each of those people to say, do you have a need? If they did, we set them up. It was the most organized giveaway I've ever seen. And good old Danny got the grade school kids. So they helped the ladies in walkers. They helped, people with needing 6 meals. They helped carry things. So that recognition, and when we least expect it, the woman who I call my co-director, she's not hired, she's still volunteer, but her brother is one of the state senators, California state senators. He came a couple of weeks ago. I was able to speak publicly with him about my absolute concern over migration. Angeli spoke to him and then took him to the garden. He was so moved. He's coming back this Friday, and he is giving away food vouchers to the Mercado, where most of our people, if they can shop there. He will give away food vouchers. But the more important thing is he's bringing staff members to note down the needs as the people speak. So those things, just a couple of examples. But how my spirituality is shaped, I have to say, when we came and the border was closed, I was so disappointed. But I found my prayer being one of solidarity with the people. The borders were closed. I'm sitting in a house, safe and sound, and they're God knows where, begging to be safe. So every morning my prayer consciously was in solidarity with them. If and when you come to our house, the picture, the poster that is framed as you come down from upstairs, right there is the Holy Family en route. And it's a Hispanic depiction. I forget the woman who is the artist, but you would know her. We really try to make that very real. And more and more our prayer is in Spanish, our consciousness. And I'm happy that my spirituality is being shaped this way. Mary Kay, do you want to say more about your spirituality and take us into prayer?
I think maybe it's time to bring this to a close. So I want to thank you all again for taking the time to join us today, and from the various parts of the world that you might be located, in the morning, in the evening, in the afternoon. So thank you very much for joining us, tuning in to this conversation. Maybe to bring this to close, we will just take a brief moment of prayer, and I'm conscious that it is both the season of Advent and the start of December. And in the month of December, we celebrate and commemorate the founding of the Sisters of Mercy, as Catherine Macaulay, Elizabeth Harley, and Anna Maria Doyle took their vows as the first Sisters of Mercy on December 12th of 1831 in that original foundation, well, down the road from the original foundation house in Ireland, in Dublin, but at Presentation Convent. And then 300 years prior to that, also on December 12th, but of 1531, is the appearance of Our Lady of Guadalupe to Juan Diego. And as we mentioned, we're at the parish of Our Lady of Guadalupe and under her patronage here in this house. So I found a prayer that for me combines those three themes of Advent, Our Lady of Guadalupe's feast, and the anniversary of the founding of the Sisters of Mercy. And it's just a simple poem by a Sister of Mercy, Mary Wickham, who lives and writes beautiful poetry in Australia. Woman of Mercy, who knew within your womb the first limberings of the one who is mercy. Teach and lead and free and find with us and for us the place where sit the ones who weep and starve and ail and mourn and do not know more than an inkling of future. Let us be with them and for them, a word, a way, and a flashpoint of that mercy. O great woman, O mother, our sister in Jesus, Mary, this today, for this time, we pray. Thank you again for joining us. May your days be blessed and full of life.